Hey guys, welcome to this week's review of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So, for those of you who listen to my reviews for Salt Lake City, you may have noticed that I haven't uploaded in a really, really long time. The season is done. Okay, and I'm like, what, 5 episodes behind? And yeah, I don't know what it is. I guess January was a hard month. February was even harder. March, it's starting off a little rough. I'm going to be honest with you, but I am hopeful. Things are getting a bit better, and I want to get back into my YouTube thing. So here I am. And you know what? I have been enjoying Salt Lake City. Like, I don't know what it is. I was just not interested. But I am interested now. So, yeah, I know I'm kind of late, but I'm going to review the rest of the season. And I decided to do kind of just one giant review. So, hopefully it's not too long. I'll try to be quick with it. So, let's get right into it. So, episode 20. So, this is the episode where Lisa kind of has a breakdown. Okay, because she's mad at Meredith because she believes that Meredith doesn't have her back for whatever reason. I really don't. It's just really confusing to me. I think I said it in my other reviews. I believe that they're trying to ice out Mary. I may be wrong, but that's how I feel. I feel like they're trying to ice her out, and because Meredith chose to still be friends with her, that kind of messed up their plan. So they turned around, and now they're kind of pissed at Meredith for it. So now they're nitpicking every little thing that Meredith does for some reason because they're mad at her because she's friends with Mary. That's just what it is to me, because I don't really see Meredith doing anything. Yeah, can Meredith be a bit standoffish? Sure, but I don't really see Meredith doing anything that is so crazy that warrants the hostility from everybody. Like the whole Lisa saying, "You didn't have my back." Well, you didn't really have Meredith's back when you took Jen's side on certain issues. So both of them have claims to say that they didn't have each other's back. So I understand you being kind of annoyed or upset, but I don't get this level of anger. And like I said, I think it's more to do with Mary. The group doesn't like Mary and they want to kick her out, but for some reason, not for some reason, but her and Meredith are friends. And yeah, and anyways, I mean, come on, Bravo, they love Mary. They're not gonna, like I said before, they would recast the rest of them before they would just kick Mary out willingly, Even though it is a gamble with Mary because she says so many offensive things, but they know that she is reality television gold. So she's not really going anywhere unless Mary decides, which she had decide that she doesn't want to be a part of the show. But then I heard, oh, that's not true, she's coming back. So I don't know what it is, but clearly, come on, they want Mary there. The producers want Mary. So yeah, and Lisa calling Meredith a whore and saying she sleeps with everybody and this and that, like that's not a good friend to me. So when you're there crying in your confessionals saying that I was a good friend to Meredith, I'm a good friend, it's like, no, you're not, Lisa. I used to like Lisa, and I still do. That's her character. She's just kind of wacky, okay? She is. I wouldn't say she's like Mary, but she is kind of like Mary. She's just one of those wacky characters, and I still do kind of like her, but yeah, she's very messy. She stirs the pot. She gossips. I wouldn't say she's a bad friend necessarily, right? Like, I definitely think she's been a good friend to Jen. I think she's been more of a pushover to Jen, to be honest. Right? She is messy, but mm, I wouldn't say she's a bad friend. Let's just leave it at that. But her going off at Meredith, and it didn't warrant that because Meredith didn't do anything that crazy. It's not like Meredith spilled a secret about you and your life and what you had going on, so you kind of spilled something about her. You know what I mean? So if Meredith does one little thing to you and then you get upset and you want to spill all her secrets, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have much sympathy for you. And Lisa's there crying and freaking out like, I said everything that nobody else wanted to say and blah, 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 blah. And maybe, I don't know. I feel like they just all talk behind each other's back and it's just one big mess. And I think the main pot stirrers are Heather and Whitney. I really don't like them, and I really, really don't like Whitney. I used to like Whitney, but not anymore. By the end of this episode, I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I kind of understand why I stopped watching. Right? Like, by the end of the episode, I was like kind of done. I was done with all of them, to be honest with you. And I was definitely, I'm definitely Team Meredith and Team Mary. And that's not really saying much because I don't think Mary's a great person either, right? Like, really? You have me siding with Mary? That's not good. Okay? And even in that episode, Mary invited Jen to her church, and the way her congregation was acting was hella weird. And it was hella cultish. It was. Right? Instead of praising God, they were praising Mary. And I'm not talking about the mother of Jesus, okay? I'm talking about Mary Cosby. Okay? Like, they were praising her. And maybe it was her birthday or something. Bravo and their producers, they're messy. So maybe it was Mary's birthday and they were kind of just honoring her and they took it out of context. So that's why it looked hella crazy. But just going off of what I saw, yeah, it definitely seems like they worship her. That's weird to me. It is what it is with that. So Meredith and this whole, like, her father and his memorial, and look, whether it was the 29th or the 30th, like, that's just, to argue about that is so stupid, right? Because when you really think about it, her father passed. You're not gonna get it over it in a day. So, okay, so what? Maybe. But even then, she wasn't on this, when she was, well, Meredith says that the memorial was the day before they were supposed to get on the Sprinter and ride to Vale. You know what I mean? And then what Lisa says that it was actually the 30th, right? And I guess the whole reason why they say that Meredith was lying is because she's the one that called the FBI on Jen and she didn't want to be there, which is just so stupid. It's so, like, it's clear. Like, really, Meredith was the one that called the, like, come on. You know what I mean? It just doesn't, it's so irrelevant, and who cares? Like, if someone's father passed, and if they kind of want a bit of time to themselves, and they don't want to be on a bus with everybody, that's totally understandable. Like, I don't really understand why it's such a big deal. It just comes off as, like, to be honest, Whitney and Heather, it's all their fault. I'm gonna blame them. It just seems like they wanted to stir the pot. They wanted something to talk about. They wanted to play Nancy Drew, and they really caused a lot of the mess. Lisa, I don't know, maybe it could have been a misunderstanding with the dates and whatever, but it's like, I don't get it. I just don't. Moving on to the next episode. Okay, so episode 21. So this is supposed to be the season finale episode. Let's just fast forward to Lisa Barlow's event, okay? Because, I mean, overall, it was a good episode, but let's just be real, that's the most interesting part, okay? Um, let's get into Mary and Jenny, right? Now, okay. I'm so conflicted with Mary because in real life I would want nothing to do with Mary, right? But watching her, I'm sorry, I'm drawn to her even though I know she is kind of terrible, and maybe I am being a bit hypocritical when it comes to the other ladies, because maybe I do feel like I'm a bit harsher with them, but with Mary, I don't know, I just like laugh at her or laugh with her. It is what it is. I'm sorry, I like Mary, I do. And the reason why I like her, I don't think she's an honest person, but I think she's authentic to what she's feeling in the moment, right? Like, oftentimes with the other ladies and with other reality shows, right? You can tell that the only reason these people are hanging around with each other is because there's a camera in their face, right? These are their coworkers and they have to be around each other. What I appreciate about Mary, like, if she doesn't F with somebody, she doesn't F with somebody. And she doesn't pretend like Lisa and Meredith, okay? Or Heather, or like the other ladies. They will like have this big blow up fight. And then in the next scene, they're best friends again. And like I said, it's clear that the main motivator behind that is they're on television. Okay, so they have to come back together. So I appreciate Mary because she's like, listen, if I don't like you, I don't like you, and I'm not going to pretend. And she doesn't like Jenny, and it is what it is, right? Whether you agree with it or not, she doesn't like Jenny. And it seems that Jenny doesn't like her either, which is fine. Listen, not everybody has to like everybody. But what I don't understand is with Jenny, if you really can't stand Mary, if she's this terrible person, why would you be so upset if she doesn't want to talk to you? If she doesn't want to say hello? Because, like, in her confessional, she's like, Mary is so rude. She sees me, but she just pretends I'm invisible. She doesn't say hello. And it's kind of like, well, did you go up to her and say hello? Hmm. No, you didn't, but you expect her to come up to you. And even if you did come up to her and you said hello and she ignores you, don't get me wrong, that is hella rude. It is. It is. Mary is rude. No doubt about it, right? But once someone treats you like that, then just be like, you know what? Cool, whatever, fine. You don't want to talk to me. I don't really like you. We don't have to talk to each other. I don't understand why Jenny is so pressed to get Mary's approval. Especially, it's not like Mary is the queen bee in the group. You know what I mean? Like, everybody doesn't like her except Meredith, right? Like, Mary actually is the odd one out. So it's not like you need Mary's approval in order to be on the show or anything like that. It seems like the other ladies like you. You've had your moments, but you're not coming back because it turned out you were racist. And I don't know, judging by that scene, it did not help your case, Jenny. It did not. So yeah, as I was saying, it's not like Mary is popular within the group. It's not like you need Mary's approval for you to be on the show. So I don't understand why you're so upset or why it's so important. And it's the hypocrisy to me because initially I remember at the beginning of the season when Jenny kind of told Mary to shut the F up and come on guys, shut the F up, let's go, and was speaking to her any kind of way. And Mary was like, excuse me, don't talk to me like that. You know, Jenny got upset. Don't tell me how to talk. I can talk however I want. Da 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 da. And then when Mary in this episode tells her to be quiet, she freaks out. Don't tell me to shut up. Da, 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 da. So it's like you can talk to people however you want to talk to people, but when they give you that same energy, you got a problem. And Mary didn't even really give her that energy. Mary didn't give her that time. And I get it. It would be hella annoying dealing with someone like that in real life, right? Her making those faces, rolling her eyes, being really flippant with you. It's a good strategy to get on someone's nerves, right? But at the end of the day, Mary is not giving you that energy. Mary was trying to run away from her the whole entire time, and Jenny just kept following her around, yelling and screaming, and like pushing Whitney out the way and pushing her arm, like, I'm talking, I'm talking. And then finally, Jenny throws a glass at Mary. She throws her drink, okay, which was in a glass, at Mary. That's just too much for me. That like that no. No, it was too much when Jen did it, and it's too much when Jenny did it. You know what I mean? It's like, why are you that upset? And I do feel for Mary when she said in her confessional, it's like someone just threw a glass at me and nobody in the room cared. Nobody. Not even Meredith, okay? But I feel like Meredith was in her own world, right? And no one kind of chased after Mary to make sure, hey, are you okay? I'm sorry that she did that. Da 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 da. They kind of just let Mary walk out that room. So, like I was saying, it's pretty clear that nobody likes Mary, right? I'm not even sure. I'm sorry. I'm not even really buying this Meredith and Mary's friendship thing. I don't know, but whatever. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But yeah, like nobody, like, you know how the funny thing is, and this is why I mentioned nobody chasing after Mary. Because usually I would just be like, look, I mean, there's no real loyalty when it comes to reality television show. You can't expect someone to isolate themselves from the rest of the cast to always kind of stick up for you or fight your battles. I totally believe that. But it's funny to me because in was it Vale or the previous episode, Mary keeps checking up on, like, Meredith storms out like at least 50,000 times on that trip, right? And every single time Mary goes to check on her. And if Mary doesn't get up and go to check on her, the other ladies are like, Mary, why don't you go check on Meredith? Since you and Meredith are best friends, why don't you go check up on her? Right? Even Whitney was like, Mary, where are you? Go check up on Meredith. Like, oh my gosh. Like, they kept, it was really weird. Like, it was very, very passive aggressive. They are very, very bothered with Meredith and Mary being friends, right? So, yeah, as I was saying, Mary every time was checking up on Meredith when she was upset, when she had an issue. And here we are, someone throwing glass at her, and nobody cares. Nobody checks up on her. No one's like, oh, you crossed the line. You're doing too much, Jenny. Lisa actually was like, oh, I don't care. It's perfectly fine. And that's the thing with the group I don't understand. You have certain people in the group that can get away with doing these extreme stuff, and everybody in the group is just fine with it. And then, like, one person says or does one little thing, and they just, I don't know, the rest of the group just kind of has this weird reaction to them, right? They're like, how dare you? Meanwhile, someone just threw a glass at somebody and nobody cares. But whatever, it is what it is, and I'm glad that Jenny's not coming back, because that was just really weird, really unhinged. I get you don't like her, but I don't understand what Mary did that was so bad. You know, it doesn't make sense when Jen did it. It doesn't, like, moving on, moving on. Okay, so Whitney and Mary, right? So Whitney apologizes to Mary about saying her church is a cult. Well, her church, I'm sorry, it's coming off cultish. I don't know why Whitney bothered to apologize for that. It's weird because I just feel like they all they all hate Mary, but at the same time they want her approval so badly. I don't understand. Like if you really don't like somebody like that, why do you care? Just leave her be. I don't know, maybe they're trying to like search for a moment and camera time. Like I feel like Whitney is very thirsty for camera time. So she's just always trying to have a moment, and it's just kind of it just doesn't come off as genuine to me because you don't even like her. So whatever, moving on from that. So oh my gosh, they're so silly. Oh my gosh. Moving on to Meredith and Jen. It's the same kind of nonsense to me. Like Jen, I just don't understand. If someone doesn't like you, someone doesn't like you. I don't understand why everybody has to like everybody in these groups. It's okay for one person not to like the other person. And Meredith has a reason to not like you. It is what it is. You know, she doesn't like you. Cool. You have you like Heather likes you. Whitney, I don't know if she likes you, but she's tolerating you. Okay? Lisa likes you. Like you have other friendships within the group. Mary maybe likes you. I don't know. So I don't know why you have to have Meredith's approval. It just doesn't make sense. And it's not like Jen is innocent and hasn't done things to piss people off. So that's just the consequences. That's just the consequence of your action. And you can't just turn around, act like a victim, and start crying like, "How come you don't like me? You like like this. Just grow up, grow up." Oh my gosh! And so they start bringing up Meredith and her being a whore, allegedly. And look, her and her husband were separated. So she could do what she wants. She dated around, he dated around. Okay? It's just like what's the big deal? Now, I mean, I think Meredith definitely gives it a lot more energy than she should, right? I can't say I don't know why she's getting so upset, but if you guys were separated, you really didn't do anything wrong. So if they want to go and talk about, oh, you were seeing this guy and you were doing that, then you just be like, yeah, I was, and we were separated. So, like, is that a problem? But you know, Meredith, she gets so upset and she starts yelling and she always storms off. So it's just like you're making it into a bigger deal than it needs to be at the end of the day. It's like who cares at this point? I really don't. Yeah, so that was the end of the season. We're moving into the reunion now. So let's fast forward to the reunion part 1. We all know Mary's not there, right? And it sucks that she's not there, but it's probably for the best cuz we all know how Mary is. One thing when Heather, I don't know. It's I have mixed feelings about Heather. Heather is the most likable, unlikable person. At least to me. It's like I don't want to like her, but I do. But she's so unlikable because I feel like she really, and I've said this 1,001 times, but let me say it 1,002 times. Heather really stirs the pot. And you know what? Let me be positive. Let me give her a compliment. It's good for the show. Heather is definitely great for the show. So I will give her that. But she really is, I don't want to say she's a puppet master. That may be exaggerating. But you can tell she has this way of turning everybody against, well, I was going to say against each other, but mostly against Lisa, right? She kind of plants seeds. And one of the seeds she planted when they were talking about Mary, well, I'm upset that Mary's not here because Meredith could really use the help. I'm really upset about that. Which is like, what? Why would you be upset that Mary isn't there to defend Meredith? That's really that's rubbing me the wrong way because like what is Mary? Meredith's attack dog or something? Like, do you know how many times, I'll say it again, you know how many times Mary had to go check up on Meredith to make sure she was all right and she was doing okay? Do you know how many conversations she had to have with Meredith? Now, okay, to be fair, they kind of had to push her, but she still did it. It's like Mary is her own person. She's not there to defend Meredith, and it's not like Meredith goes out of her way to defend Mary either. You know what I mean? So, like, what are you talking about? And then, like, that's so stupid. And let's be real, she's not angry or upset that, like, Mary's not there to defend Meredith. What she's doing is trying to turn Meredith against Mary by planting that seed of, like, oh, she's not your real friend. She doesn't have your back. Because if she had your back, she would have been here. That's absolutely ridiculous, okay? Meredith is a grown ass woman. She can take care of herself. She can defend herself, clearly. She doesn't need Mary there. So, like, what are you talking about? Right? Like I said, again, it's very clear that they all don't like Mary, which is fine. Totally understandable. But they're pissed at Meredith for liking Mary, so they're trying to turn her against her. And like that's just so manipulative. You know what I mean? Like just leave Mary be. She will I want to say that. Like she will screw over herself at the end of the day cuz you know how Mary is. She says whatever on her mind. So she doesn't need your help. So just leave her be. You know what I mean? Like, just stop playing these games. And she does it with Lisa too, trying to turn everybody against Lisa. It's like, it's so obvious. And what was so annoying about this episode, and I'm hoping, I didn't watch part 2 yet, but I'm hoping in part 2 or at least part 3 that they call Heather and Whitney out. Like, I'm ready for Andy to read his little cards and say, Jessica from Mississippi commented and she said that Heather and Whitney are really stirring the pot. Like, la 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 la. You know what I'm trying to say, right? Like, I'm waiting for Andy to read one of them cards from the audience calling out Whitney and Heather. Like, I'm waiting because it was so frustrating watching this first part because, listen, I'll say this about Lisa. Obviously, Lisa has a lot of issues. She is not perfect. I'm not caping for Lisa at all. But it is kind of annoying when it's like everybody calls out Lisa. Lisa does have a point. Everybody calls out Lisa in what she does, but nobody calls out Whitney, right? Or as a group, nobody like calls out Whitney or calls out Heather specifically. Nobody calls out Heather and what she does, right? Because Heather is great at playing the nice guy. And I think she's a nice person. I don't think she is a bad person at all, right? Like I said, she is a likable person, but because she's so likable, I think she can get away with planting certain seeds and like framing things in a way as if she's so concerned about you, right? So that you don't really clock what she's doing. So she kind of gets away with it, which is really, really annoying. But just like she said, Lisa will reveal herself. I feel like eventually, even though maybe Heather is a fan favorite and production, loves her or Andy loves her, it's kind of like, listen, you keep moving like that, eventually people are going to catch on to what you're doing. Even with what she said about Jenny. Now, I'm not a big fan of Jenny either, okay? Right? But like, I didn't really get the impression throughout this season that Lisa was trying to control what Jenny did. I mean, maybe Lisa was trying to control what Jenny did, but like, it didn't seem like Jenny was just following behind Lisa. It did seem like Jenny had her own mind. So for her to then turn around and say, "Oh, what did they call her?" I think it was Whitney that said that she's her minion. Yes, her minion. For them to call Jenny, Lisa's minion, is completely whack to me. And it's funny because I feel like they kind of try to make Mary a minion to Meredith, right? So they have a habit of doing that. Like if you're friends with the person that they don't like, they will, I don't know. They try to like, it's just the same crap, right? Of like trying to make it seem like, oh, if you're friends with that person that we don't like, that means that something's wrong with you or something's wrong with that friendship. Versus maybe they just like each other and they get along. Just like Jen and Heather, I absolutely don't get Jen and Heather. Jen has been terrible, terrible to Heather, but Heather, for some reason, is able to forgive her, right? But you don't see the other ladies kind of throwing that in Heather's face and be like, well, why are you friends with her? You must be her little minion. They're not they're not planting those seeds. They accept that, look, if you're going to be your friend, it is what it is, and they let it be. Do you guys get what I'm saying, or am I all over the place? I'm probably all over the place. But let's move on from that. But like, I just really hope they get called out because I'm getting so sick and tired of their little smirks and their smiles and whatever. And I'm gonna give them their credit. It is good for the show, but it becomes annoying when they don't get called out for it, right? If they do their little messiness and they get called out, then I'm good. But when they get away with it, it's annoying, right? Like, I don't want to I don't want this to be the Lisa show or the Lisa bashing show. You know what I mean? Like, come on, spread it around. That's all I'm saying. Spread it around. So let's talk about Jenny. We all know that Jenny got fired, right? And in that segment or whatever, they were also talking about Mary and a lot of the offensive stuff that she said. And you know what? I'd even clock Heather saying that Jenny looks like an anime. She looks like an anime character. Like, Heather, it's anime. Like, that was just so cringe, right? And offensive. It was. You know what I mean? Is it? This is the thing. Nowadays you don't know. You don't know, right? But nobody's perfect. Yeah, you're gonna say things that offend people at times, right? But I will say this. This is my opinion. It is what it is. If Jenny is gonna get fired for the stuff that she said, rightfully so, because when they were like compiling all the times that Jenny spoke to Mary, she was hella disrespectful. Always, right? And then got mad when Mary didn't want to deal with her. Mary didn't want to deal with you because every time you spoke to her, it was super disrespectful and on 10. And I know maybe that's her personality, but that's not for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, that's just too much. But if Jenny is going to get fired for the stuff she says, then I hate to say it, I do like Mary, but to keep it fair, Mary should be fired as well. And I like Mary because she's entertaining, but she is a liability, and she hasn't just said one thing. You know what I mean? Like, maybe Heather has said one thing or maybe two things, and it's like, okay, fine, you can forgive somebody, you can look the other way, you could be like, okay, if you learn from that, don't do it again. Cool. But if you're repeatedly doing the same thing over and over again, you have to keep the same standard, right? So if Jenny's gonna go, Mary should go as well. It is what it is. But I definitely think Jenny crossed the line with throwing something at Mary. And then when Andy confronted her, she was like, well, if I wanted to hit Mary, I could have. I didn't throw it at her. I threw it at her direction. That's bullshit. That's bullshit, because you don't know what could happen. You could throw it at the direction of Mary. You may not intend to hit her, but if that glass smashes the floor and a piece of glass jumps up and gets Mary in the eye or somebody else in the eye, like, that's a problem. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be throwing anything at anybody, let alone glass. Like that, like, who does that? And the fact that she didn't even apologize and say, "Oh my gosh, I was drinking. I'm really embarrassed. I would like to apologize to Mary for what I did." Da, da, da. Like, she was totally okay with it, and so was everybody else. And like, that's just pretty messed up. And that's the thing. Like, even though I just finished saying that if Jenny's gonna get fired, Mary should get fired too, I do feel like, yet again, the same thing when it comes to like Heather and Whitney. It's like certain people can get away with certain behavior and like they don't get called out within the group, right? And then just because they don't like Mary, they're not going to call out poor behavior directed towards her. I will be fair, Jen did point out the fact that when Mary first met Jenny, she was on 10, or at least with the, I think they first met during the tubing thing, right? Like, Jen was explaining that you came on pretty strong. And if you don't know someone like that and they're telling you to shut the fuck up, and then yet again, Jenny's excuse was, "Well, I grew up in Long Beach." It's like, okay, what? So, like, you grew up in Long Beach. Not everybody grew up in Long Beach. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't tell somebody you don't know that well to shut the fuck up and then be mad when they get offended by that. They don't know you. They don't know your personality. They don't know that that's just how you talk. Like, you can understand why they would feel some type of way. And she just continued it. But Mary is also standoffish herself. You know what I mean? And she also has to understand why people would feel some type of way when it comes to her. So it's like, you can't really cape for. I'm not caping for Jenny, and I'm not definitely not caping for Mary. Mary is just more likable and funny to me. That's and good reality television. That's the difference. Really and truly. That's why I want her to stay. But honestly, I don't think this is a good idea for her. Okay? Because she may be the next one getting arrested. And you know what? We've seen enough of that storyline. Okay? We've seen enough. And let's just a quick word on Meredith and Jenny. Oh my gosh, Meredith and Jenny. Um, yeah, I mean, Meredith, it just feels like Meredith is in her own world. She did open up about all she was going through, right? And yeah, wait, I'm gonna save that for a couple of seconds later. Let me just talk about Meredith and Jenny. Meredith isn't the type to really stand up for anybody. To be honest, she doesn't stand up for Lisa. She doesn't stand up for Mary either. So I don't understand why the ladies are so mad, or the ladies are saying that Meredith stands up for Mary all the time. Like, when has Meredith really spoke up about Mary? You know what I mean? Maybe once, but it's not anything passionate. It's very tentative. You know what I mean? So I don't know what they're talking about. Like, that's just how Meredith is. She doesn't really stand up for anybody, so to kind of expect her to do that for you. And yeah, she could speak up more. She could, but like, you could tell that she doesn't want to go against Mary or offend her, right? So she's kind of stuck between like a rock and a hard space. But yeah, I mean, if you do feel that it is wrong, and especially if you are being filmed, I think it is important to clearly state where you stand. It reminds me of Real Housewives of Dallas when Leanne was going on about, oh, what was her name? It starts with a K, but she was Mexican, right? And she was ranting to wow, I forgot that lady's name. Well, Dallas has been canceled anyways, so what's her name? The blonde girl. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know the first letter of her name. But if you watch Dallas, you know what I'm talking about. So Leanne was, going on a racist tirade about the Mexican lady. That's terrible. But kind of saying, "Oh, I don't know what she said. You know what she said, okay?" right? But the ladies that she was venting to kind of just stood there and like was like, "Oh my gosh, what are you saying?" But she didn't speak up on camera, right? She didn't say, "Hey, Leanne, that's wrong what you're doing. Stop." She kind of just stood there and took it all in. And when you don't say anything, it does look like you're co-signing that behavior, right? So if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't agree with that person is saying, if they're being racist, if they're being sexist, misogynistic, whatever it is, you better speak up in that moment because your silence looks like a cosign. It does. So let's, stick with Meredith right now. We do find out that we know that her father passed and she was having issues with her sister and her nephew. So it seems like she was going through a lot. She broke down and she kind of said that that's part of the reason why maybe her behavior was really erratic this season. I don't know if erratic was the word that she used. I don't think it was erratic, right? But I definitely, like she said, I definitely noticed a shift from the Meredith in the first season to the Meredith in this season, right? Like the first season, um, I liked her style. I thought she was an attractive woman. She was good to look at. But in terms of reality television, I wasn't too much here for her. I mean, I wasn't against her, but if she didn't come back, I really wouldn't feel any type of way. But actually, after watching this season, I'm Team Meredith. Like, she probably is my favorite on this show. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think. Okay, yes, was Meredith a lot, right? Did Meredith threaten to leave 5,000 times? Yes. Okay, did it get a kind of annoying? Yes. But overall, I don't feel like she may have slightly overreacted, but I don't feel like she was erratic. I don't feel like she was unreasonable. I think that a lot of her outbursts was kind of justified. You know what I mean? Because Heather and Whitney were poking the bear a lot. You know what I mean? And stirring the pot. So I understand her feeling some type of way and kind of cussing them out. I feel like they low key deserved it. So I wasn't really too much here for her. Like, I'm not glad that she opened up about that because I wouldn't want anybody to go through that, but it's nice that we're getting to know a little bit more about Meredith. But I didn't like how she used that as kind of not an excuse for her behavior, because then I don't know, it feels like it gives the other ladies kind of like a pass. You know what I mean? Like they get away with their behavior again cuz Meredith is taking more accountability than she should for what went down within the group. That's just how I feel. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, so let's just move on from that. What else happened? Um, okay, this Lisa and Angie thing with the restaurant and or the catering and Lisa telling them to cancel it allegedly. This story didn't make sense to me. From the beginning until now, like I thought that, to be honest, I totally forgot about it, until the reunion right now. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Angie, what happened to her? Hmm. Yeah, I'm not feeling Angie. She kind of was like there and then she was gone. So I'm kind of curious what happened to her. Like, they realized she wasn't a good fit for the show, so they kind of edited her out type business. That storyline was weird. I still don't know what happened. Um, I do like Lisa, and maybe because I like Lisa, I kind of have a like, maybe I kind of want to hold out hope that she wouldn't do something like that. You know what I mean? But from seeing the way she moved this entire season, if she did do that, would I be surprised? No, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't really trust Angie either, to be honest. Like, and Andy read the text messages, and that Lisa printed out, and I still didn't understand. And then maybe I'm just slow. Maybe you guys comment down below and really break it down for me and explain, because I still don't get it. I don't get it. But it is what it is. But it seems like Angie now has kind of, and that's so super messy, right? Angie has kind of turned over to Heather and Whitney now and is spilling all the tea and spilling all of Lisa's business to Whitney and Heather. And that's not a good friend. And Whitney and Heather, like, I would be careful, okay? Because it seems like Angie would be willing to throw you guys under the bus for another chance at what? What do they hold? A snowflake? Yeah, she would throw you guys under the bus for a snowflake. So you better be careful, because that's what it's looking like. That's what it's looking like. Like, that's not a good friend. Just like Lisa, you know, is not a good friend for calling out Meredith like that when she got upset. Same thing goes with Angie. Like, you fall out with somebody, so you tell all their business. Come on. And look, it's one thing if this is real life, because in real life, if you know it's never, ever, 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 ever gonna get back to the person, then okay, I understand that you may have the need to vent, but you know these people are filming a reality television, right? It's just, it's not a good look. So I'm giving Angie the side eye either, so I don't really know what to believe in the situation. And yeah, it is what it is on that. Okay, yeah, I think that's everything that anything. Well, that's all I have to say about the part one of the reunion. So let's move on to part two. So finally, we're here at the end of this marathon, the reunion part two. Okay, and it starts off with Mary and her church. Let me say this. Cameron, we learned that he passed away. Rest in peace to him. And hopefully his family is doing, hopefully they're well as they can be given the situation. It's really sad. And to be honest, I felt some type of way them bringing him up. Like, I know he was on camera when he was alive and that he made the choice, right? Like, he probably did want to tell his story. He probably did want to expose Mary and the things that she was doing in her church. But now that he's passed, I just don't think that it's Lisa's or Whitney's place to tell his story, right? Especially to be bringing out his text messages. Those were private conversations, and if you wanted to make it public, he would have went he would have well, yes, to be fair, he did come on camera and he did say what he said, but that doesn't give them the right to expose his private text messages, especially when he's not alive, to give his permission, right? Because that doesn't only affect him, but that affects him and his family. And I think he's married and with kids and everything. And then they want to talk about that he had an affair with Mary, but it seemed like it happened when he was young before he got married or anything like that. But still, I just think when you're talking about all those things, you don't know who you're affecting. Like, I understand that, okay, if he wants his story to be told, fine, but I just don't think a trashy reality television show like The Housewives is the platform for that. You know what I mean? It's just a bit distasteful. That, like, and there's enough information out there in which, like, we didn't need to see the text messages and all that. Like, we really didn't, because we know Mary's church is sketchy, so I could have done without that. But moving on. Yeah, And it's funny because Andy asks all the ladies, do you think Mary's church is a cult? And I do agree with Jen when she said that, like, all churches to a certain extent are kind of cultish, right? And I agree with that because the structure of like organized religion, it does leave space for, I don't know, people to be taken advantage of, right? And not just organized religion, but when it comes to like these spirituality groups, we've just seen so many examples of spiritual leaders taking advantage of their congregation and their members, right? And we've seen so many examples of people really worshiping these spiritual leaders and treating them like God. And yeah, it opens them up for abuse and to be manipulated and to be brainwashed. It can be really great. There's lots of benefits with coming together. I think we all want to feel like we belong to something. And I do think in life that yeah, you do need a higher power. You know what I mean? And it's good to come together with other people and support others and have others support you because we're social animals, so they say, right? We need people. So I think there is lots of benefits to it, but there is a lot of potential dangers, right? So listen, there's been enough stories about Mary and her church and her situation, and even from the clips that we did see. Now, Jen, well, not Jen, but they did mention that it was Mother's Day. So that, I mean, it doesn't make sense when, like, yeah, sorry, I'm all over the place, right? But when Jen went to Mary's church and they were kind of worshiping Mary, right? I was kind of confused because I'm like, this is a little too much, but it did turn out it was like a Mother's Day service and they were honoring Mary. But still, that was just a little too much because I'm pretty sure there are other people within the congregation who are also mothers, right? And if it's a Mother's Day special or whatever, wouldn't you be honoring Mary? And I don't mean Mary Cosby, I mean Mary Christ. Okay, wouldn't you be honoring Mary Christ? Okay, Jesus's mom. Like, wouldn't that be the person you would be making speeches for? Like, it is a little, it's just weird. It's really weird. Now, has she done anything illegal? Well, allegedly there's been some rumblings about that, right? But morally, I do feel so. I do. And the fact that she didn't show up to the reunion to kind of defend herself or give her side of the story, I mean, I'm just going to go off of the information that I have. And then I mean, I didn't know this. There's a support group for ex members of Mary's church. Like, that's effed up. That really is. And listen, and I think that's what makes certain people dangerous because they can be charming, right? I do feel like Mary is charming and entertaining and funny. I do want to see more of her on reality television. But at the end of the day, my entertainment isn't worth it, right? It isn't worth rewarding someone who is potentially not a good person, rewarding someone that has hurt a lot of people. Like, it's not worth it. So I definitely don't think she should be back on the show. And like I said before, if you're gonna fire Jenny if you're gonna fire Jenny over her Facebook post, then I definitely think Mary should be fired as well. Like I said, my entertainment isn't worth it. And if giving her a platform, that could be potentially dangerous because that can actually make her seem more legitimate and draw more people to her church and potentially more people to be abused. Now, fortunately, it has had the opposite effect. it has ultimately hurt her credibility. So if she is doing down low dirty stuff, hopefully it will deter, hopefully her being exposed will deter any further people from going to her church. And for the existing members, maybe it will help them question what's going on and for them to find another church. You know what I mean? So I hope it all works out. It's not like Mary needs the money, okay? Mary seems to be doing well. She will be fine. You know what I mean? She will be fine. So it is what it is, but I definitely don't think she needs to be on the show. Like, she may be funny, I'm not gonna lie. And she does get it right sometimes about, the other ladies, but it's not worth it. It's not. So, yeah, moving on from that. Um, so this whole Lisa and Meredith, right? Lisa and Meredith. Oh my gosh, Lisa, Lisa, Lisa. Where do I begin with Lisa? Where do I begin with her? It's like she apologizes, she says sorry 1001 time, but then in the same breath, she just tries to justify her behavior. And you can't justify it. You can Here's the thing. She says sorry, but she expects you to forgive her in the next breath. And it's like you can apologize, but you should apologize without expectation, right? You can't force somebody to forgive you. And it was like she kept trying to crowd Meredith. Like when they would take breaks, she would go up to her and be like, I'm so sorry. I'm so very, very sorry. And kind of come up with these excuses and reasonings for what she did. Well, I heard someone told me you said my house was ugly. So that's why I was so upset. Oh, this was boiling over because you were mad at me that I was friends with Jen. And like, just stop. Stop it. Right? Like, I'm not saying that you don't have a right to be upset or your feelings are not valid. Like, I get it. If someone calls your house ugly, then I understand why you would be upset. I understand why you would be upset with Meredith making you feel bad for being friends with Jen. Like, I get it. But instead of having that conversation with her and trying to find some resolve, you you call her a whore. I don't know what to say. You call her a whore, you diss her husband, you diss her children, her whole entire family. Like, you went entirely too far. Entirely too far. And there's nothing you can say that can justify that. Right? And it's totally understandable why Meredith would probably want nothing to do with you, at least for right now. Like Meredith said, she just heard it 48 hours ago. Give her some space. You just have to sit in it. It sucks. It's terrible. I understand you probably feel bad, but you just have to sit in it. You have to sit in what you've done. You can't talk your way out of it. You can't justify your way out of it. You can't come up with an excuse or reasonings or be like, well, you did this and that's why I did it. And then expect Meredith to be like, well, okay, I understand. Like, no. And Meredith is already, like, from what from what happened with Jen, we know that Meredith is extremely sensitive about her family as is. Okay, she like so I don't know how you think you're gonna get Meredith to forgive you like that, because that's not even Meredith's personality. Now, if it was Heather, I would say maybe you have a chance, right? Maybe Heather would forgive you in 5 minutes. But Meredith, hell no. Hell no. So honestly, I feel like you would have had a better chance getting Mary to forgive you, to be honest, more than Meredith. So it's just too much. It's too much. And even though she may feel sorry, when she does that, it comes off as if she's not. right? But if she just kind of sat there and cried and made a sad face maybe, but she's just doing too much. And then we hear about how when Meredith's father passed, she reached out to Lisa and Lisa didn't reach back to her. Like, she reached back 3 days later, and then when they met up, Lisa kind of was attacking her about Mary and this whole nonsense. And it's kind of like, your friend just lost her father. I'm not saying that your feelings aren't valid, but you have to put things into perspective. If your friend just lost your father, you have to understand that the show and this whole Jen and Heather and Whitney crap, that's petty. It is. It's super petty. You know what I mean? And it just, hearing bits and pieces now, I think before I didn't really like, I got why there was tension between the two of them, but kind of hearing everything laid out, it just makes it makes more sense, right? It really does. And I do think both of them, I think I've said in my previous reviews, I think both of them were kind of being hypocritical. I think both of them were kind of mad at each other for being friends with people that they didn't like. But both of you guys are on reality television show. You guys are essentially your coworkers. And you can't like I said, you can't isolate yourself from the group just to kind of keep your friend happy. I mean, if this was real life, even then it would be like, you can't really control who your friends are friends with. But in real life, I can understand you being upset, or you expecting your friends not to be friends with someone who has hurt you deeply. I think that would be totally fair, but I just don't think that's a realistic expectation when you're filming a reality show, because you're putting your friend in a real awkward position, because your friend can't be mad at everybody you're mad at, especially when, like, we know how it is. Like, these shows are predicated on drama and conflict, right? Like, if you're on these shows for long enough, like, you're gonna at some point or another have beef with everybody. So you can't just expect your friend to have beef with everybody, especially when most situations are nuanced. They're not black and white. They're not someone was obviously wrong, someone was obviously right. There's layers, and usually there's a lot of back and forth. So to kind of jump in and try to take sides, it's messy. It's messy. So I get why they would be upset, but I think they're both being hypocritical. However, I do think Lisa was dead wrong with the way she treated Meredith after her father passed, right? I think she was just so blinded by the reasons why she was upset and why she wasn't hurt, that she wasn't as empathetic to her friend in the moment. And I think when someone passes, especially a parent, you kind of have to put all that shit to the side for your friend and be there for them. You know what I mean? Like, that should just put everything into perspective. For now, at least. I'm not saying forever, but at least in that moment, for that period of time, you just need to give them that love. Like, come on. Especially if you say you really love them and care about them like that, then just be there for them. Right? And then later you can you can hash these things out. Because at the end of the day, who effing cares if she's friends with Jen or Whitney? It's like, it's just so stupid. You know what I mean? And now you've kind of thrown away 10 years of friendship potentially over other people that you don't even like. It's stupid and it's sad. It really is. But I mean, Lisa, you did what you did. Like, I don't think she has been a very good friend at all. I mean, you say, I'm a good friend, but like, look at your actions and just sit in that. You have not been a good friend. And so she says that her little rant calling Meredith a whore, She says that she was really upset and she didn't realize that she still had her mic on. Now, I don't know. Do you guys believe that? Comment down below. Do you guys believe that she knew what she was doing or she didn't? At the end of the day, I'm not in Lisa's head. I don't really know. I can totally see and understand, like I can kind of see it, right? It can go either way. I can kind of see how if you're super upset, you can forget that you have your camera on. I mean, not your camera on, your mic on. And Lisa comes off like you can see the way that she acts, that she gets very flustered easily and overwhelmed. And when she gets in that space, there's no stopping her. So I can definitely see, given her personality, that she is so caught up in her emotions that she doesn't realize what's going on around her. She doesn't realize that she still has her camera on. But at the same time, I can also see her doing it on purpose. I can. Like I don't know with her. I don't know. But whether you do it on purpose, whether you knew or not, whether you thought it was a private moment or whatever, it's still not okay. Like you just got caught. You just got caught and exposed. Like, but either way, it's not okay for you to speak like that, even in private. You know what I mean? Like, I know that yes, you need to vent every now and again. But it's like you weren't venting about how she treated you. You weren't venting about the things she did to hurt you. You were just straight up attacking her character. And if that's the things you say when you think you're in private, like what kind of things has she said about Meredith that we didn't hear? Right? And everybody in the cast is saying that she's talked shit. Right? Whitney is saying that, well, she said that about you off camera and unmiked. This is what she does. She has talked about everybody. So at this point, if everybody is saying this is how you are and we catch you in that moment, you very well maybe forgot. And I'm kind of leaning there because I don't know, right? Because you never know why people do what they do and what their justification is and how they get to a conclusion. I can say I wouldn't do that, but just because I wouldn't do something doesn't mean that everybody else thinks the same way. I just don't think it would I don't think it would be a good idea, period, to say what you said being mic'd when you're on a reality television show, knowing that it's going to be exposed. Like, I think if anything, that makes her look bad. So I don't think she would do that on purpose. I definitely think she got flustered and forgot, to be honest with you. But like I said, either way, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So, like, that's like if you thought it was private, like that's how you really feel about her at the end of the day. And like if I was Meredith, yes, I know, like if you're like, yeah, you're on a show together, so if I wanted to be on the show, of course I have to protect my bag. And I kind of understand that you can't keep grudges going forever, so at some point you are going to have to be cordial with her. It's part of the game. You know what I mean? It's not real life, it's reality television. So I get that, but if I was Meredith, I would be very, 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 very careful with her. Like, definitely our friendship would never be the same after that, because like that's how you really feel about me. That's how you really think about me. And like you just been exposed. It is what it is. And there's no excuse for it. So Lisa, not a good look. Not a good look at all. Not a good look. And it did make me like seeing this part of the reunion. It did make me reflect on, there was a part, like just maybe a brief moment where I was like, Heather and Whitney, maybe the reason they're like so hell bent on bringing down Lisa is because Lisa is genuinely a jerk. Okay, maybe because Lisa does go around saying terrible things and they just really don't like her. And I don't want to say she deserves it, but yeah, she deserves it and they want to expose her, right? For a second, I was like, hmm, maybe I've been too harsh on them for a second, but then the reunion kept going, and I was like, no, 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 no. I still can't stand Heather and Whitney. I do like Heather, kind of, like I said, but I can't stand them. I really can't. And it's not to say that Lisa's innocent. She's absolutely not. Or Lisa isn't guilty of the things that they say she's guilty of, but I just find them a bit hypocritical. And I feel like they're using her as a scapegoat. They're using her for storyline, especially Whitney. I feel because like what does Whitney have going on? To be honest, right? And we all know the game. Like I'm not gonna blame Whitney for that because they all do that. They'll like if you have nothing going on in your personal storyline, like you will start drama with the other ladies. So Whitney's not doing anything different than the others. I get that, right? But the thing is, like, they try to make Lisa this big bad villain, and she probably is. She probably is, but I don't think Heather and Whitney are any better. They do the same thing, but then they blame Lisa for it. Like Whitney and this in the whole Cameron and Mary thing. Like Whitney tried to frame it as, "Oh, Lisa is the one that brought up Mary and her church and this whole thing. And she's the one that brought Cameron on camera and all that jazz." And yes, that is true, but it's kind of absurd for her to act like she wasn't gun ho on exposing Mary as well. When Mary kind of snapped at her, like she was quick to be like, when she was talking to Meredith, she was quick to throw Mary under the bus when it suited her. You know what I mean? So it's like you were adding to the storyline as well, independently of Lisa. So don't act like Lisa was like drawing you in, or Lisa lied to you, or Lisa did this, or like you're an adult. Take responsibility for your own actions. You were just as involved in the gossip. And I love that actually Lisa brought up that moment she had with Heather, when Heather was like, "Yeah, I felt like Meredith wasn't being a good friend to you. She hasn't been sticking up for you. She hasn't been supportive of you." The same thing she wants to say about Mary when it comes to Meredith, right? It's the same sort of habit of kind of planting seeds and turning one another against, like turning other people against each other, right? And it was very clear in that moment that Heather wanted to turn Lisa against Meredith further because she was mad at Meredith for being friends with Mary. So they were trying to come after Meredith. That's what it came off to me, right? And then when Heather gets called out, she goes on this long spiel that didn't make sense. Like, "Oh, I wanted to understand you. I wanted to empathize with you. Like I was comparing Meredith to me because I'm such a ride or die friend. Because even though Jen treats me like complete crap, I'm still there for her and I still defend her 100%," which is bullshit, okay? Because when she got arrested, she was right there speculating with Whitney, okay? She was right there going up to the police saying, "What's going on? What happened? Huh? Huh?" Like she was right there fishing for information on camera, okay? So, let me take a breath. Let me take a breath. It's not that serious. It's their lives. It's not mine. It's not that serious. But still, it's like, it's just, why it's so annoying to me? Because Andy's not calling them out. I'm waiting for Andy to pick up his card and ask a question from the audience. Like, I'm waiting. I'm waiting, and it's like nothing. They're not being held accountable at all for their messiness. And if they were, I would totally get over it. I would totally be like, okay, I like Heather and Whitney again. Maybe not, but maybe, right? At least Heather. I would be like, okay, I like you guys. It is what it is. You guys are doing your job. You know what I mean? But it's just the fact that they get away with it. And listen, Lisa deserves that attention, okay? 100%. Lisa deserves the attention she is getting. I just wish that they would extend that to Whitney and Heather, because they are just as messy and two-faced as Lisa. Maybe not as Lisa, but they're right there along with her. You know, you're gossiping with Angie and then bringing back what Angie's saying on camera. Like, come on. You know, you're just as shady. And look, I, I'll say this right now. Meredith, Lisa, Mary are definitely, Jen as well, are definitely big talking points. They are, right? But all I will say is, particularly with Whitney, be careful, because something is going to come out about you, and the other ladies are going to play Nancy Drew just like you did. Okay, the other ladies are going to be fishing for information and speculate, and you're probably not going to like it. What comes around goes around. So, I shouldn't get too annoyed, because I feel like if you're on the show long enough, everybody gets a turn. That's what they say. Everybody gets a turn. So it is what it is about that. Oh yes. I also want to bring up Lisa lying about Cameron mortgaging his house. Okay, and giving Mary $300,000. Like, what the hell? Why would you lie about that? That didn't make sense to me. And then even with the phone call, when she was calling Meredith, and Lisa said that Meredith said that she was at the memorial, and Meredith was like, I did not say that. I was in the bathtub. The memorial was the day before. I did not say I did not say I was there. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like it could have been a misunderstanding. You know what I mean? But then when you put everything together, like all the things that Lisa has done, all the speculations, everything, it's like, I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure if I believe it was a misunderstanding, or she misheard. Like, maybe Meredith said, I'm in the tub, and she kind of heard, I'm in the memorial, tub, bathtub, memorial. Is there any way you can mishear that? I don't know. I don't know. It's like Lisa is very, very, very sketchy. So you know what? She may have, got the restaurant to not cater to Angie. You know what I mean? Like, you never know. So damn. Anything else? I think that's it for now. We have one more part. I thought the season was done. I thought I was completely behind, but we do have one more part, so yay, I guess. I'm completely exhausted after doing this marathon review, but I will definitely be finishing off this season. Whatever. Oh my gosh. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, comment down below. Tell me what you guys think about the season so far. See ya.